Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons and writing stories for Dungeons and Dragons, specifically when it's thought of in the context of screenplay writing. So I was listening to an excellent YouTube channel recently. It's called Lessons from the Screenplay, and Michael, the primary content creator there on Lessons from the Screenplay, he presented, he was talking specifically about the conversion of the short story for the movie Arrival. And that was written by Ted Chiang. And Ted Chiang is an incredibly, actually the short story was written by Ted Chiang back in the late 90s. And of course Arrival is the movie from 2016. It's about the arrival of some alien creatures to Earth. And so it was talking about the conversion of that short story into a film, and its journey as a screenplay, into being a screenplay and then into being a film, right? And it's a very good video. Ted Chiang, I really highly recommend reading any of his short stories or novels. He's one of the most talented writers in science fiction today. I'm a big fan. So basically, Michael from Lessons from the Screenplay, he presented the three basics of screenplay writing, okay? And he defined them as the following. He defined the first one as engaging with the main protagonist's journey of discovery. Okay? There's a lot to think about there. The second one is immediate conflict and tension, and the third thing that you do is emotional impact from choice. Okay. Now I thought this was really, really interesting. So three things that a screenplay writer is thinking about as they move forward with their screenplay, right? And I was thinking about this from the context of Dungeons and Dragons. So I want to just kind of go through and at a very initial glance, if you consider Dungeons and Dragons overall, the first one, engaging with the main protagonist's journey of discovery. Okay, I actually think of the three, right? Immediate conflict and tension, and then emotional impact from choice. The first one is what Dungeons & Dragons does the least. It does the most poorly. And the reason why is, I think it's generally assumed. People are like, so the game assumes, hey, you've made this character, this is your favorite race, this is your favorite class, you have built in, the combat mechanics that you like, you've made some non-combat choices as well, you've chosen the equipment. So the game assumes that you are engaging with the main protagonist's journey of discovery. Except Dungeons and Dragons, in 5th edition, we now have interaction, exploration, combat, and so the idea of discovery is there. But from a screenplay perspective, discovery could be discovering discovering what is around them in the environment. But it could also mean discovering what's in them as a person, right? And Dungeons & Dragons has always had aspects of this. I think alignment is one of the first things that you do to discover who that character is and what that character is about, right? But overall, tabletop role-playing games have always assumed they have a locked perspective, right? So the perspective is locked onto these player characters. And then also, and additionally that, as they're designed, tabletop role-playing games are generally engaging 4 or 5 main protagonists right out of the gate, okay? And there is incentive from the dungeon master to keep them all equal. So I see there's some very, very natural blocks to really putting this into place in a Dungeons & Dragons game. This first one. I don't think that it can't be done, but I think it's the one that we need to work on the most, right? Because one, I do think right now, as Dungeon Masters, we really need to be thinking about our games from the perspective of movies. And I think if we really start to move the game toward considering each session a distinct movie, our games can really improve. And there's a lot of reasons why we should do that. One of them is time frame. If we can get our games down to 90 minutes, it would be a tremendous movement forward for the tabletop role-playing game, for Dungeons & Dragons overall. Okay? And there are other reasons in addition to that. I'm going to move on to the second one now, and that is immediate conflict and tension. The game, Dungeons & Dragons, does this better than any other tabletop role-playing game on our market. I think it does it better than novels. It does it better than video games. It does it, it's the best. Like, the Monster Manual is an entire book where they're saying, hey, if you have 4 or 5 player characters, we are equipping you immediately to give them conflict and tension. So the game is 100% locked on delivering this. It has zero problems. Dungeons & Dragons, from every edition, has had zero problems delivering immediate conflict and tension, and that's great. I think it's one of the reasons why it's been so compelling, right? It's also because it so naturally slots into this specific, screenplay basic. It's one of the reasons why the type of people who play Dungeons and Dragons have been, a certain type of person. So, and I think we're struggling as the Dungeons and Dragons community to move beyond this, to say, okay, we are going to be a really thorough and diverse community, right? And so one of the things is since we've been so locked on this middle one for so long, it's something we need to address as the Dungeons and Dragons community. Okay. The last one is impact, emotional impact through choice, and I actually believe that Dungeons & Dragons has always had this in here, but it's limited, and I think that they've always built the game so that it can be run without this, right? And right now, I do believe that you can have a Dungeons & Dragons with just considering the first two. Frankly, I think they've built Dungeons & Dragons in a way where you could have a Dungeons & Dragons game that solely sits with that middle one, the immediate conflict and tension, have very little engagement with your main protagonist's journey of discovery, and have very little emotional impact through choice. You still have a functioning Dungeons & Dragons game that's probably going to make a lot of players fairly happy, right? But I think everybody who's listening to Dungeons & Dragons commentary online is realizing that we need to start moving beyond this, right? And move to really robust, incredibly well-written stories that are engaging for lots of different types of players, and that have a high probability of engaging people. And so I'm really thinking a lot about this, and I think if we as Dungeon Masters start to think about these 3 basic principles of screenplay writing, engaging with the main protagonist's journey of discovery, immediate conflict and tension, emotional impact through choice, we can really make our games much, much stronger. So today I just wanted to kind of introduce this idea, let you know where I think the game naturally falls in considering with these, right? And then also, just one more time, remind everybody that there's a big, big opportunity in learning this and mastering it and moving forward and incorporating the three basic principles of screenplay writing, engaging with the main protagonist's journey of discovery, immediate conflict and tension, and emotional impact through choice. By using these, we can make our games much, much better, much faster, and more available to different types of players. Thank you.